Magneto and Apocalypse usually being enemies to one another makes no damn sense. Or does it? On the surface level, these guys essentially want the exact same thing: mutant domination. Magneto more so wants to prevent mutants being wiped out, and he lost faith in humans and humanity not only during World War II, but also during Operation Paperclip. He believes that in society, a majority will always try to destroy a minority, so he opposes that with sheer power. Apocalypse is a little different. While he does believe in mutant domination, it's more so the powerful and quote useful mutants that he actually cares about. Apocalypse, through his circumstances, believes in survival of the fittest. He seeks to ensure that the strong survive and populate so as to create a society in which the strongest mutants would wage eternal war, thus ensuring his own supremacy over the world since he believes himself to be the strongest. Hawkeye and the Winter Soldier seem like two dudes who you might think should be buds, given they're both dealing with some shady past trauma. While they have worked together because they've had to, they aren't the most fond of each other. For starters, these two have both had history with Black Widow. They've also both been in the running to take up the shield of Captain America. During the story Fallen Son, Hawkeye took up the mantle for a brief period of time, but gave it up because he felt that becoming Cap wouldn't be respecting Steve's memory or wishes. When the shield went to Bucky, he routinely tested the guy. They're also just completely different personality-wise. Following the passing of Black Widow, these two sort of team up and dive into her past, and they do not trust each other one little bit. Now, this next rivalry is actually pretty well documented, as it was the entire drive between Civil War II. Thanks to a little clairvoyant Inhuman, Iron Man and Captain Marvel went head to head in a conflict that was supposed to split the superheroes down the middle. Now, these two are usually actually pretty decent friends and share a few things in common, but because Carol saw this Inhuman as a way to basically replicate Minority Report and stop crimes before they happen, and because Iron Man thought that this was a little too close to authoritarianism, boom, conflict. A conflict that saw the passing of War Machine, who was later resurrected, and caused the passing of the Incredible Hulk, who was also later resurrected, and ended with Captain Marvel beating Tony into a coma, which actually ended his life, but then he was, say it with me now, resurrected. Yes, good job. Now, while most of the Spider-Man family in Marvel Comics are ultimately pretty positive individuals, two of the more brooding and dark members would have to be Kane Parker and Flash Thompson. Now, you might think their similarities should give them even grounds for friendship, but during one story, Minimum Carnage, they very nearly took each other's lives. Despite both being on the trail of Carnage, who had escaped from prison, these two still bicker the whole time. Scarlet Spider even immediately denies helping Agent Venom when he learns that Carnage went into the microverse. Scarlet Spider is a very unwilling hero, having been a villain for so long. Agent Venom is an Avenger and is trying to actually complete a mission. Kane will take a life when it's necessary. Flash will try his best to not let that happen. Hell, the whole event ended with Kane lobotomizing Cletus Cassidy and then swinging off into the distance, leaving Flash to clean up the pieces. Now, this next rivalry is rather strange, because while young Nathaniel Richards admired the heck out of Dr. Doom and was even possibly related to him, when Nathaniel grew up and became Kang the Conqueror, that admiration seems to have turned into hate. In Kang the Conqueror #1, a young Nathaniel Richards breaks into and liberates the old library of Dr. Doom, thinking that now, having all of Doom's knowledge, he will become so much more powerful. But upon discovering the place, he is attacked by an old Doom bot, which is when his future self, Kang the Conqueror, shows up, destroys the bot, sends it back to Doom in the 20th century to let him know who destroyed it, and then tells his younger self that basically Doom ain't nothing and that he can give his younger self all that he seeks. In 2021's Timeless, there was a man who specialized in supervillain history, and he decided to write a book about Dr. Doom since, to him, no villain equaled Doom. Learning this, Kang stole this man to persuade him into considering him to be the better supervillain. Now, there have been a lot of instances where these two egomaniacs constantly try to one-up each other as the best villain. It's a battle of egos, pure and simple. For a short while, Norman Osborn's character was thought to be deceased, but the pressure was on to have a character like the Green Goblin who was so fun and insane and wild. So, Roger Stern decided that instead of just bringing Norman back or using Harry Osborn, he would create a new villain that was just very similar. shady business mogul Roderick Kingsley stumbled onto one of Norman Osborn's old hideouts filled with Green Goblin equipment, and so he took it, improved upon it, changed its color, and became the Hobgoblin. This rivalry was even prevalent with other versions of the characters. When Harry Osborn was the Green Goblin, he got into a fight with Hobgoblin, and Spider-Man was kinda just like the side character in that feud. And of course, when Norman Osborn did return, he didn't take too kindly to his idea being basically copied, and he took the life of the Goblin King, who was Phil Ulrich, another Hobgoblin, and at one point, another Green Goblin. That's kind of the main problem between these two. Green Goblin just hates that other people are taking his idea and trying to outshine him. Thus, these two have developed a long-lasting rivalry that has exploded into violent battles that have nearly taken out both characters on several different occasions. Now, if you are looking for a rivalry that is entertaining from beginning to end, I highly suggest you read through the 2008 volume of Deadpool, specifically starting at issue number 10. This is happening during Dark Reign, and at this time, Bullseye, who is currently the Dark Avengers Hawkeye, has been contracted to take down Deadpool. Now, these two have actually worked together before, but now that they are set against each other, it's probably the most entertaining rivalry I have ever read, because it's just two completely insane mercenaries fighting each other to the death. In issue 10, Bullseye managed to get an arrow right through Mr. Pool's noggin. Then in issue number 11, Deadpool takes it out, and his brain is still half regenerating as he tries to take on Bullseye in a meat farm, where he suits up in a butchered pig using it as armor, and he skewers Hawkeye with meat hooks. Later on, Bullseye tries to take out the truck that Deadpool is driving with a rocket launcher, and Deadpool literally drifts so that the rocket flies through the window and explodes in the background. There is respect here, but the dynamic between these two psychos is just such a treat to read, and you should definitely check it out. Now, when thinking of Deadpool feuds, a few people come to mind, and one of the big names would be Tony Masters, aka Taskmaster. Taskmaster has a bit more of a rivalry with someone else that we're going to talk about here, and that is Black Widow. While the Black Widow movie showed a version of Taskmaster hunting down Natasha, the Taskmaster miniseries from Jed MacKay and Alessandra Vitti sees Black Widow hunting down Taskmaster for a crime that he didn't commit, the takedown of Maria Hill. We get to learn that Black Widow is the one hero that Taskmaster actually fears, but we also get to see what it's like from his perspective when he's being hunted down by one of the most capable assassins in the Marvel world. And that's saying a lot, because earlier in the series, this guy took on Hyperion. With all the tricks up his sleeves, the conflict between these two as he tried to clear his name is actually super entertaining, and we even see a softer side to the mercenary when he spares her life. One little rivalry actually started in the most minor of ways, and given the opposing sides here are literally fire and ice, it just works really well. During 2018's Fantastic Four number 24, we get a little story told in a flashback to a day that Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, went on a little bit of a temper tantrum after the thing sprayed him with water, and he left the Fantastic Four straight up to go solo. It turns out that at the same time, Bobby Drake Iceman had done a very similar thing with the X-Men. Now, as a bit of a free agent, and with the Fantastic Four, now 3, having to deal with a public weapons demonstration by Advanced Idea Mechanics, Iceman arrives to literally put out the fires and is inducted onto the team. Iceman then went on a few adventures with the First Family before Johnny heard the news, got real jealous, and came back with a temper. This led to a literal fight between the two before they put their differences aside to save the day and return to their respective teams. And for this last one, I want to talk about a rivalry that reared its head in the MCU. During Infinity War, Thanos had basically wiped out a ton of the Asgardians and left Thor drifting through space, which is when he splats on the windshield of the Guardians of the Galaxy. As soon as the Guardians get Thor inside, Star-Lord is feeling his masculinity being threatened. As Drax states, Star-Lord is a dude. Thor is a man. And I mean, while we may consider Peter to be handsome and at least a little bit muscular, by contrast to Thor, it's harder to say. Peter's team don't help at all, especially when Gamora begins touching Thor's muscles. But then, Thor wakes up, and with his tall stature, tales of godly daddy issues, and deep voice, when he tries to commandeer their pod, Star-Lord tries to square up and deepens his own voice. It's hilarious, and the rivalry continues on into the end of Endgame and the start of Thor Love and Thunder, but we don't need to get into that. And with that, my name is Adam Andrews. As always, I will catch you guys on the flippy flop. Stay safe, keep positive, and peace out, nerds.